And hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Job Search Solutions with Ray Rauth. Now, many of you here will know me from my football podcast, Dear Pats Nation, with Ray Rauth and producer Mike. But after 205 episodes of DPN, I'm thrilled to bring you this new podcast. As much as I love football, one of my passions in life is helping people secure employment. And over the last 14 years, that's what I've been doing in a variety of different ways. On the show today, we're going to be talking about what to do when you're lacking relevant experience for a job you're interested in applying to. Should you stop applying for jobs after securing an interview? What if you don't accept a job offer? Would you recommend another candidate? Lots of people turn to TikTok for employment advice, and we'll be seeing what TikTok has to say today. Now, before we get the show started, let me tell you about myself and why I think I'm qualified to host a show. Recently, I was just promoted to the Director of Communications. It's a senior management position. I'm overseeing our marketing team and all of the communications for an employment agency that I've been employed with for about the last 7 years. Prior to that, with this same company, I was the employment service manager. I was the youth employment program manager, an employment consultant, an employment facilitator, and a job developer. So I've really done the gauntlet of assisting job seekers trying to find work. Then the other 7 years of my career, I was an employment program manager for a company that worked with people with persons with disabilities. I was also an employment program manager for people who were homeless or at risk of being homeless. And I started my career assisting individuals who were being released from federal prison. So hopefully I can share a few things that I've learned over the years. I'm not going to make you wait anymore. Let's get this show kind of started here. And I'm going to start with a tweet I saw today that says, quote, I think one thing that's pretty frustrating is in job search is seeing jobs that you know you can do, but you know your work experience so far doesn't bear that out. And that's at Sarah too. And I know exactly what this person is thinking when they tweet this. And obviously they're probably looking for work, either looking for a job change, career change. Maybe they're unemployed. I don't know. I don't know the background history behind it, but obviously they've been looking at jobs. And I used to be in this boat too, right? When you'd be searching for work and you'd read a job description and you'd think, man, like I could do that job. I know I'm qualified to do that job, but they're looking for like 3 to 5 years experience. A lot of people coming out of school, new grads go through this, right? They have the education, maybe they've done some co-op work, they kind of have that skill set, but this quote unquote entry level job is looking for 3 to 5 years experience. And I mean, in the employment sector, we talk about this all the time. How are people supposed to find employment coming out of school when these entry level jobs are, the companies are looking for experience? Well, let me talk to you here. My advice to you, if you're in the similar situation, is don't stop applying for those jobs. And I think on the show a lot, I'm going to talk about my own personal experiences throughout my career. If you look at the position that I'm in right now, I mean, I now sit, and I'm not bragging. I'm being fully transparent with you. I sit at the big table, contribute to the big decisions of the organization. And I believe that I'm contributing to the labor market and the people who are searching for work, or our employers who are looking to hire candidates. I believe I'm contributing by marketing our programming, marketing our services, being able to know that people, and reaching out to the people who are looking for our services so they know where to find us. I didn't go to school for marketing or communications. I went to college originally for correctional worker. I was going to spend my career working with offenders. That was my entire goal. I kind of by dumb luck fell into the employment sector, began helping people, became a quote unquote employment expert. And that was sort of my wheelhouse. And that's probably where I thought my career was going to go. I thought if I ever got into a senior management role or a director role, which I'm in right now, it would have been around employment services or program development, something of that nature. Never in a million years would I have thought marketing and communications. Now, I had a little side hustle since 2017, where I ran like this little very minor like digital media company where I produced a podcast and I wrote blogs, and I worked for a couple of different companies. I worked for a company called Sportscaster, a company called Newsbreak, It's an app that I was doing. Another company called Halftime, another company called Colorcast, and I'm a writer, and my podcast Dear Pats Nation is a part of the Dean Blundell Network. And then, I manage social media and that type of thing. So like I TikTok videos, all that kind of stuff. So I understand digital marketing. I understand promotion. I understand, influencing, content creation, that type of thing. So it's like I had the experience, but when you're looking at the director of communications, being a senior manager, looking over an entire marketing and people, managing industry professionals in the marketing and advertising world, I did not have the experience that this job description ever would have asked for. But here I am. That's why I give people advice. If you're in the same situation from the tweet that I read, and I'm going to read it one more time just in case you forgot it by now, at Sarah2 tweeted, quote, "I think one thing that's pretty frustrating in the job search is seeing jobs that you can do, but your work experience so far doesn't bear that out. My advice, apply for the job anyways." And what you want to do is you want to write a custom resume when you apply for that job. So even though you don't have the experience per se, you want to highlight the experiences you have, the education you have, and the know-how that you have for that job and what you've done with it. Show the employer like, hey, I may not have done exactly what you're looking for. I may not have done this job before, but what I've done throughout my career is actually going to help your company. Right? Because you're selling yourself, you're creating your brand. And I think that's one thing that I've been successful at. And you're going to hear me say I statements a lot. And sometimes it's going to be good and bad. Right now it's good. I think I've done a good job at creating my own personal brand. And I kind of have like two worlds. I'm known as like the New England Patriots sports guy. I'm known as the football guy. I go on different people's podcasts and I get invited to work and subcontract for all these different companies as the football guy. But then like on the other side of my real life, like I've been successfully working in the employment sector, for 14 years, helping people find work and being successful in that and going from company to company, being successful at almost every company I've been a part of. And now, kind of me hitting the pinnacle of what I always wanted, just in a position I never would have imagined. And I think that everybody who's listening to this right now can do the exact same thing. Never, ever, ever discount anything in life. If you want that job, apply for it. Because for all you know, that company has been interviewing all these people with that experience and they're not fitting what they're looking for. My company took a shot on me. They took a shot on me, the person. They didn't take a shot on my know-how. They took a shot on my passion. They took a shot on my willingness to learn. They took a shot on my ability to go out and find a way to do something. And you can do the same thing. All you have to do is convince that employer that you're that person. And I see it too much when I'm working with clients and I'm working with job seekers. Well, I can't do that job. I have no experience there. Who cares? Apply for it. The worst thing that could happen is you don't get called for an interview. You took maybe 30 minutes, 60 minutes out of your life to write a customized resume and cover letter showing the employer why you should go, why you should be there, why you are the candidate that they need. In the grand scheme of things, I mean, how much time have you wasted watching TikTok or scrolling Twitter, Instagram, that type of thing, watching YouTube videos? If you have time to waste doing that kind of stuff, then you have all the time in the world to get out there. You have all the time in the world to get out there and write these resumes and apply for these jobs. Do it in your spare time. Do it in the evening. I mean, if you are currently unemployed looking for a job, looking for work is your full-time job. You should be spending 5 to 6, 7 hours a day looking for work. Not necessarily applying to like 50 jobs, quality over quantity, writing custom resumes for each job, but never be discouraged. Who cares? Education, anything. Doesn't matter what you don't have. Your job in that document that you're going to send to the employer is showing them what you do have and convincing them through that document that you should be brought in for the interview. So I get discouraged when I see people being discouraged because of this reason, for not having the experience that employers are looking for. Because I promise you, If you apply yourself, if you write the resume, and if you get a chance to get in front of the employer and you can sell yourself and you really believe you can do that job, tell them why you believe you can do that job. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you that it's all going to work out for you. I understand too. I've been in the right place, right time many times in my career, but it's what you do with those opportunities. But you can't find the opportunity if you don't go for it. I'm going to steal a quote from Wayne Gretzky, famous Canadian hockey player, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Take your shot and get out there and get the opportunity. Now, I'm going to look at this other tweet that I saw today, and it said, do you know what's a bad habit? Stopping applying for jobs as soon as you land an interview. Keep going. Keep up the momentum. Get comfortable having options. Oh, I can't agree with this any more than I do. I mean, first of all, do you want to take the first job offer you get? Do you only want one job offer and then you go nowhere with it? Okay, I'll tell you right now, that's not in my wheelhouse. For me, it's I want options. I want 4 or 5 companies or 4 or 5 companies wanting my services, trying to get the opportunity to make more money, do something more I want to do. I don't want to take a job just because I need it. I've done that before. I've well, I need money. I need a job. I got to take this job. I hated it. The industry wasn't for me. I walked out of that job. I walked out of a job interview once for that company. I took the beginning for a year. I managed an employment program for persons with disabilities. Great organization, great clients, great staff. Everything was great about it. But that part of the sector did not fit my skill set and what I knew. I walked out of the interview and I thought to myself, this job is not for me. I actually withdrew my application after the interview. I thanked them for the interview. I was like, you know what, though? This job's not for me. I don't want to move forward. They called me and said, hey, we want you to come on. We think that you can be successful here. We think that you can really bring something to the program. They convinced me to take the job. From day one, I knew it was a mistake. And 11 months later, I was walking out the door and I think they were just as happy I was leaving as I was. It just wasn't working. The fit just wasn't there. I didn't look at options. So yeah, if you apply for a job and you get called for an interview, keep applying. Even if it's your dream job. What if you don't get the job? And I'm going to talk to young people for a second, people coming out of college. Here's one thing that I learned. See, when I applied for jobs when I was younger, I worked at a couple of restaurants when I was in high school. I worked at a grocery store. Every time I applied for a job, every time I got an interview, I got the job. So I just assumed that I was always going to get it up. I got out of college, applied for a job, got it. I thought, man, I just nail interviews. And then I decided I left the company I was with and had an interview, didn't get the job. First time it ever happened. Had another interview, didn't get the job. Had another interview, didn't get the job. Now, luckily, I was still working at the place I was at, so like I had a financial backing. I really wanted out. I finally got the job working with at a homeless shelter where I started with the shelter, and I took over their employment programs and was running their employment programs there. Now, that just shows you that you need options from interviews. So don't stop. And it's when you're unemployed, and when I left the company with persons with disabilities, I was unemployed for a month. And I know that there's people out there that might be listening to this that are like, man, I've been unemployed for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Like, how hard was it for a month? And you're right. But I felt down when I was unemployed. I'd never been unemployed. I hadn't been unemployed since I was 15 years old. I've always worked. I felt like I wasn't contributing to my family. I wasn't being a father or a husband. I wasn't bringing in the financial means that my family needed. And I was applying for jobs, waiting for calls, and I'd get down. And then I finally got called for 1 interview, 2 interview, 3 interview, 4 interview, went to all 4 interviews, was offered a couple of different jobs, took the job with the company I'm currently with. I went on, became a job developer, and well, the rest is history. I'm now where I am with the company. Best decision I ever made. But I had those options. If I would have taken if I would have stopped job searching after my first interview and taken the first offer handed to me, I would not be where I am today. I don't know where I'd be. Maybe I'd be on my 5th or 6th job by now. Because I was pretty much a job hopper the first few years. The first 7 years of my career, 3 jobs. Next 7 years of my career, 1. Like, I mean, different jobs within the company. I should say different companies, not different jobs. I did a couple of different jobs with the homeless shelter and that type of thing. But get what I'm saying? Like, I went from being a job hopper to being in a company that I absolutely love. And not just because, I kept, working my way up. Job developer, employment consultant, facilitator, those were all lateral moves. My first one is when I went to go be the youth employment manager there for the program manager for a youth program. That was my first like real promotion there. And then a big bump when I went to employment service manager, and then obviously now being a part of the senior management team. Absolutely gigantic. But I didn't lose momentum in my job search. So it's hard. 7 years ago when I was unemployed, 7 years ago when I was sitting there feeling like less than a man, I guess you could call it. I didn't feel like a contributor. I didn't feel like I was doing my part for my family. As bad as that felt, I didn't just stop looking when I got an interview. I didn't just stop interviewing after I got a job offer. I put that company off, had a couple more interviews, talked to the company, had a second interview with the company I'm with now. Was given that job offer. That was the job I wanted. I called the other place, said, thank you very much. But I'm going to go with someone else. And here I am now. Maybe one day I'll tell you where I work. At the moment, I'm not going to. Follow me on Twitter at DPN_Ray. It's in my profile. But yeah, never stop. Keep that momentum going. I saw this interesting post on LinkedIn today. We'll just say it came from Lauren. I won't give the last name. But it said, is it okay to recommend another candidate for a role you are not accepting? And I thought, what an interesting tweet. And to me, it was an interesting tweet because I never thought about it. I've never done it before. There have been jobs that I've said, no, I'm not interested in. I didn't recommend anybody for it. I maybe should have. I'll tell you, as somebody who's been in a hiring position for the last, few times, or for the last few years and other times in my career, sometimes you can interview for different positions. And when you do, you can't find the candidate that you're looking for. A little example, just a few months ago when I was still an employment service manager, when I was an employment service manager, I was looking for a position and I must have interviewed, oh my gosh, I can't, like 15, 16, 17 different candidates over like a 6-month period. And I'm very sticky when I interview. Like, to me, the fit is so important. I don't like making bad hires. I don't like hiring people and then them not being successful, because if they're not successful, I'm not successful. Then I'm trying to fill that role. So like, I'm very, very sticky, and I wait until I find the person that I'm looking for. I finally hired them. I wish at some point from those people who we were not offering job to, or if I would have, and we offered a job to one and they didn't take it. I wish they would have said like, hey, I know somebody. I would appreciate that as an employer. That would also open up a door for me in that candidate. That would keep that bridge alive. So if they ever reapplied, I would probably be interested in continuing on with a relationship with them. Whereas if they just said no, if they reapplied for a job, I don't know if I'd hire them. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope that makes sense to everybody. And I'm sorry, I know I kind of trailed off there. There's yelling in my house and someone was calling my name, and I totally lost my train of thought. So I apologize about that. If that one didn't make sense, I may revisit this one on a different show and maybe try to explain myself a little bit better. I'm going to play a part of a clip from it I saw on TikTok today, and I'm going to let you hear it, and I'm going to tell you why I agree and disagree so much with what this person said. It really, I was very conflicted. I'm not going to get into her whole big explanation. I'm just going to give into a reason thing. So take a listen.
Your bad resume isn't the reason you're not getting hired. Every time I talk to people, the first thing that they say is like, I just really need help with my resume. Do you know how many people I've hired with bad resumes? A lot. People aren't expected to be professional resume writers. Professional resume writers want you to believe that having a great resume is what's going to get you hired. But what's more important than a great resume is applying to the right positions. I've been a recruiter for a very long time, and I've seen people apply to just literally any position just because they want to get noticed. But it's a way better use of your time to be strategic. So let me show you.
All right, so she's a recruiter, and I know that she's going to believe that she's the expert on this, and she kind of is. And I agree with her that you don't have to have this like pristine resume to get a job. Totally agree with that. But I wish I could have a conversation with this person because I would like to ask, how many resumes have you deleted and not called back for an interview? I would also want to ask her, what is her definition of a bad resume? Because to me, a bad resume is not formatting. I guess I should also point out too, like, I'm not a professional resume writer. I'm an employment expert. I'm involved in everything, and I work for a not-for-profit organization. It's not like we're a fee for service. Everything we do is free. So I'm not going to try to sell you with a $500 resume. If she says like a bad resume, if she means formatting, if she means, size, if she means the amount of pages, you're absolutely right. I've looked at some pretty ugly looking resumes. The formatting's not great. It's not visually appeasing, that type of thing. You're right. That shouldn't make a difference. It will in some jobs. Don't get me wrong. Don't fool yourself. Some people will judge you based on that piece of paper or that email and how it's structured, but for the most part, it probably won't. It's the content inside the resume, though. If the content is bad, then no, it is going to affect you. It will affect you if the content is bad. And I'm going to tie it in with what I agree with her when she said, like, hey, you got to apply for the right job. Absolutely. And I talked about it already today, right? Not quality over quantity. We want quality over quantity. So it's the content. You got to remember, right now, it's a job seekers market, to be real. At least it is here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, or all around Ontario. And I believe it is in a lot of other countries right now, at least in North America. And it's a job seekers market. But you're also going up against really talented people who are looking for work too. So you could still find yourself on the outside looking in, just based on the people that you're competing against. When I look at the content of a resume, when I'm reviewing a resume, again, I'm not looking at the format unless I'm hiring like an employment consultant, because you're someone who's going to write resumes. You should have a pretty good idea of how to write a resume, especially if you are an experienced employment consultant. An experienced EC should not be handing in a bad resume. So any employment consultants out there, you better put in a professional resume. But what I'm doing is I'm reading the content and I'm seeing how you fit the job that I'm applying for. That's what every HR representative, recruiter, employer, whoever's looking at it, that's what they're looking at. Right? I need to hire somebody. What can you do for me? Don't forget, as an employee, myself included, our jobs as employees is to make money and hit KPIs and hit targets for our company. That's it. That's our job. Forget your job duties. Let's talk about your job. Our job is to hit those KPIs. However your company makes money, it's your job to do it. And they're going to have to pay. So that means you're going to have to bring in more money than you're being paid. And what the employer is going to do, what your company is going to do, is they're going to make a financial investment in you. You're being paid. People are like, oh, well, let's just appreciate me being here. No, they're making a financial investment. They're paying for your training. They're paying your salary. They're making a financial investment into you to find a job or to come to a job for them. So you want to put on that resume why they should make that investment. What I really recommend is that you look at the job description and try to mimic your resume to what the job description says. Use their keywords. You can see it right on there. You can see their keywords. You can see the key skills, the key education, the key experience, all that type of stuff. You can see everything. That job description saying like, hey, here's the type of person that we're looking for. The content of your resume should say that. If your resume doesn't mimic the job description, then it is a bad resume. Then I totally disagree with this recruiter. It absolutely is a reason that you will not get a job interview. And hey, even if you have the best resume in the world, even if you hit all those key content pieces, doesn't mean you're going to get the job interview. So think about that. The best resumes in the world don't guarantee you a job interview. So if your content isn't good. So though I agree with her that a bad resume isn't a big factor, of course, again, right? You're not a professional resume writer, of course. So if the formatting and the sizing and the pages doesn't really fit what a professional resume should look like, you're not going to get for most jobs, you're not going to be judged on that. But if the content inside doesn't match what they're looking for, why are they going to meet you? And I really want to talk to, I really want to ask this recruiter, how many resumes do not go into interviews for you? You've been a recruiter for a long time. You're telling me you interview every resume that comes through the front door? How do you know that the person who applied for the job just to get noticed actually did have the qualifications and the skill set that they needed, but they were handing out a generic resume that didn't match what you were looking for? Because every recruiter knows when you're looking at resumes, when you're pre-screening, you're looking for the keywords, you're looking for the key experience and the key education that your company wants for that position. Anybody who doesn't meet that will not be brought in for an interview. So because of that, yes, your resume is important. Don't get fooled by people saying it's not. And with that being said, that is it for this episode of Job Search Solutions with Ray Rauth. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode. I will be back next week. We're going to try to do this every single week. I hope to commit to a day. Don't forget to check out my other podcast, the Dear Pats Nation podcast, that comes out Thursday mornings on all the podcast networks. You can also find it on YouTube, on our YouTube site, Ray Rauth Approved Podcast. Doing a lot of stuff over there. And we're hoping to launch 2 new podcasts. We got this one, so I'm on 2 of them. I got Dear Pats Nation, which is with me and producer Mike. This one on my own, and we're hoping to launch 2 new podcasts that I'm not hosting. And I think it should be a lot of fun. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Happy job search. Good luck. Follow me on Twitter at DPN_Ray. If you have any questions, send me some questions over there. I'll give you an answer. Until next time, take care. See ya.